What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 23:09 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe and from here in the United States. So what you're looking at here is the flight path of a nuke sniffer plane that was airborne tonight. It just landed about an hour ago, and this is the second nuke sniffer plane that was airborne today over the continental United States. We also had a doomsday plane airborne earlier today as well. And the purpose of these planes is to detect traces of radiation in the atmosphere from nuclear detonations or nuclear power plant meltdowns. Okay, so very interesting for there to be two nuke sniffers and a doomsday plane airborne today. And then here you can see the other nuke sniffer that was airborne earlier this afternoon, and the doomsday plane was looping just south of Offutt Air Base. And we also had a nuclear war command and control plane up in the air. The doomsday planes are for the president. That's where the president goes during a nuclear war situation. He can command the entire U.S. military and U.S. nuclear arsenal from the air on these EMP-proof planes. And the nuclear war command and control planes are responsible for communicating with our submerged nuclear-armed submarines and giving them launch orders, and also to remotely launch all of our Minuteman III ICBMs if necessary. So our nuclear forces are on alert. And the continuous data stream on the primary nuclear war frequencies ended today. And we're talking about 4.5 days nonstop of this data stream, okay, which I've personally never heard before for that long, okay? So very interesting. I don't know what to make of it. The EU diplomat Kaja Kallas and Poland's prime minister have joined calls for the EU to heed President Trump's demands and spend much more on defense as Europe faces the existential threat posed by Russia. They also come as French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz both agreed at a meeting in Paris today that both countries must act for a strong Europe. Europe will not cower and hide, but instead be a constructive and assertive partner, Scholz said, adding that this will be the basis for good cooperation with the new American president. President Trump is right to say that we don't spend enough. It's time to invest, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said in a keynote speech at a conference in Brussels today. The United States, they are our strongest ally and must remain so. The EU's message to the U.S. is clear. We must do more for our own defense and shoulder a fair share of responsibility for Europe's security, she added. Wow, so very interesting response from the top European leaders, Olaf Scholz, Emmanuel Macron, Kaja Kallas, all saying that they agree with Trump, that they need to invest more in their defense and pay more to Ukraine and give Ukraine more weapons, okay, because the U.S. has been giving Ukraine more weapons than Europe has, which doesn't make sense because Ukraine is Europe's neighbor, okay? It's the EU's neighbor, and so why isn't Germany or France giving more to Ukraine? Okay, Germany hasn't hardly given anything to Ukraine. They haven't given them any missiles. They took away Patriot missiles that they set up in Poland. Okay, so Germany needs to do a whole lot more, considering the fact that we have like thousands and thousands of troops in Germany, okay, and we're protecting Germany and lots of these European countries. And U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to suspend physical entry of migrants through the southern border. Under the order, Trump has directed the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the State Department to take all necessary action to immediately repel, repatriate, and remove illegal aliens across the southern border. And we're hearing that the U.S. Transportation Command has been instructed to prepare use of their planes for migrant repatriation flights. Wow. So looks like the deportations are imminent, and the Trump administration will deploy 1,500 active duty U.S. military troops to the Mexican border. Apparently, Trump had initially requested that the Pentagon deploy 10,000 active duty troops to the Mexican border, but defense officials pushed back on such a large deployment all at once, which they stated could strain resources and pull personnel away from other missions in the U.S. and around the world. The 10,000 goal is expected to be achieved over the coming months. Okay, so the goal is 10,000 troops at the Mexican border over the next few months. And U.S. troops heading to the Mexican border are not expected to carry out law enforcement duties. Interesting. So they're basically just there for security purposes, to stop the cartels and the drug smugglers. And the Trump administration is attempting to amass a larger force of law enforcement officials to help carry out deportations by granting agents across the federal government the same powers as an immigration officer. Very interesting. And we have a new big fire that just started in California north of Santa Clarita. This is in a completely different area than the other fires were. Okay, this is probably about 50 miles north of LA. Here we have some video footage showing this massive plume of smoke on the horizon here near Santa Clarita. The scenes are absolutely apocalyptic. We're hearing that the fire has now grown to 8,000 acres with 0% of the fire contained. And also, there's numerous evacuations underway in the Santa Clarita area, just north of Santa Clarita. Look at this sky, guys. I mean, this looks like something out of a Hollywood movie, some kind of apocalypse movie, Book of Eli, or, one of those other movies. I mean, this just looks absolutely unreal. Okay, this orange sky, that is just super creepy. And this update was sponsored by Patriot Supply. Guys, Patriot Supply is doing a discount on their 1-month emergency food supply, and to get the deal, you got to use my link, preparewithNYPrepper.com. They have 4 months of freeze-dried food, which has a shelf life of 25 years, and their normal price is $250, and with my link, that'll drop the price down to $200, so you save $50 on this 1-month emergency food supply from Patriot Supply. All of the food is packed into 2 rugged, watertight buckets. 4 weeks of food in just 2 buckets. You can fit that in any apartment or even in your vehicle. But use my link, preparewithNYPrepper.com, to get $50 off the Patriot Supply 1-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video. So absolutely insane scenes coming out of Southern California. And here we have some closer footage of this Hughes fire. That's the name of this new fire, the Hughes fire north of Santa Clarita. Look at that fire, guys. I mean, it is just out of control, okay? Just spreading like crazy. It's very dry over there, 10% relative humidities, and there's still windy conditions there. So it looks like this fire is going to continue to spread. And I want to remind you guys that about a week or so ago, ISIS called for its followers to use wildfire as a tool of terror. Okay, so it's possible that some of these fires may be started by sleeper agents in our country. Okay, so, just be aware of your surroundings. If you see anybody doing something sketchy, report it to your local law enforcement. Get a good description of the individual and their vehicle, okay? But obviously, don't put yourself in harm's way. And I want to just show you guys all these evacuations around the Hughes fire. So here we have LA, and just to the north of LA, you got Santa Clarita. Look at all these areas under evacuation, okay? Here's Santa Clarita, and then all these areas here shaded in red have mandatory evacuation orders. Mandatory evacuation orders, guys. And then the yellows are evacuation warnings. I mean, this is a gigantic area. This is totally insane. This is one reason why you have to think about where you're living and what the hazards are in your area, okay? Some areas are prone to flooding. Some areas are prone to wildfires. Some areas are prone to hurricanes, tornadoes, ice storms, whatever, okay? Be aware of the natural threats to your location and be prepared to respond. Make sure you have a bug out bag. This is one reason why you have a bug out bag, okay? In case you have to quickly evacuate in a situation like this. And the Taliban has rejected Trump's demand to return the $7 billion worth of U.S. military equipment left in Afghanistan by the Biden administration. So it's going to be interesting to see if Trump sends troops into Afghanistan to take back all of our equipment. And he's also planning to send special forces, our Tier 1 units, into Mexico to take out the cartels, Navy SEALs, Delta Force, etc. And the Trump executive order that paused all further foreign aid for at least 90 days will not apply to Israel or Ukraine. Okay, there were a lot of people, posting misinformation saying that all foreign aid has been paused for 90 days. Not true. This does not apply to Israel or Ukraine. And the special forces of Ukraine destroyed Russian satellite equipment in the Kursk region of Russia using FPV drones. I'm sure Russia's not going to be happy about that. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had a telephone conversation with Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu today. He said that the U.S. will help Israel to release the remaining hostages from Hamas and to address threats posed by Iran. And Iran's Vice President for Strategic Affairs, Mohammad Javad Zarif, said today that Tehran has gained more nuclear capabilities since the U.S. withdrawal from the nuclear deal. So, guys, I'm telling you, Trump is not going to stand for that. Okay, Trump will not allow Iran to become a nuclear-armed country. So that's one area that I'm going to be following very closely is Iran. I think Trump and Netanyahu are going to strike Iran, denuclearize them. It's going to be a massive strike. And when that happens, I will be covering it all live. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. And the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, wrote today that, quote, the delusional fantasist claimed that Iran has weakened. The future will reveal who has truly weakened. And he didn't say who he was referring to specifically, but obviously he's probably referring to Trump. And earlier this evening, Trump spoke by phone with the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. They talked about Iran and Gaza and Syria and Lebanon. And Israel has requested the U.S. to allow its forces to stay in southern Lebanon beyond the 60 days that was agreed in the ceasefire deal, according to Israeli media. And a fire broke out at an oil rig off the coast of Italy. Sounds like sabotage to me, possibly Russian. And Trump signed an executive order putting the Houthis in Yemen back on the list of TERROR organizations. So now they are officially classified as a TERRORIST organization, okay? And Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has ironclad commitments to the Philippines and the South China Sea. And Brazil is saying that the Venezuelan military violated their airspace today. And China has started to decrease its purchasing of Russian coal supplies, instead for Australian and Mongolian coal in the light of its high price due to sanctions. So big loss for Putin. China sourcing its coal from Australia and Mongolia instead of Russia. And Mexican authorities have reportedly begun constructing giant tent shelters in the city of Ciudad Juarez to prepare for a possible influx of Mexicans deported. And Trump has announced that Sean Curran, the head of his Secret Service detail, while he was pictured on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania after being shot in the ear, will serve as the director of the U.S. Secret Service. Wow. And the New York Times is reporting that Trump is considering abolishing the federal income tax. Wow. And Argentina is considering leaving the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accords after Trump officially pulled out of both of them. And Trump has given his first interview from the Oval Office with Sean Hannity, and that aired on Fox News tonight. And CNN and NBC News are both reportedly preparing for significant layoffs this week. And a snowstorm for the record books covered Houston, New Orleans, and many other towns and cities across the southern U.S. on Tuesday, breaking snowfall records that have stood for over 100 years, and at least 9 people have died. Wow, so what happened to global warming, guys? Here we have a picture of Myrtle Beach covered in snow. Absolutely insane. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. Wanted to give you guys this quick update. I will be back tomorrow with more breaking news, so make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on Telegram and Twitter. Check out my sponsors in the description below this video. They'll help you out, and it'll help me out at the same time. Really good discounts on my Patriot Supply emergency food, EMP shields, GUNNR optics, if you need a rifle scope, and also Mason leather, bunch of other ones. Check them out. It helps me out. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.